Hello, welcome to the second sub-series of data bands and loading data in SatView. I've loaded two networks here that are slightly different, and we're going to load some data, the flows, on to these links, and then we're going to do some difference bands. And I'm going to show you how SatView reacts to having networks that are geometrically different, but you want to show the data values on from two different links that has got the same A node and B node. That was what I wanted to say. So basically, for example, here you got 320 and 320, but in two different networks. And what does the create bands do with those? So the first thing we do is we start to create bands. We can load the data bundles, and I'm going to do quick results. And I can see I find my demand flow and my actual flows, they're both there. For bus lanes, we can see the new symbol here, which is the yellow circle. And that means that the data is available in some of the loading networks, not in all of them. I'm going to accept that, and let's see here what that means. Now we've got the network and the attributes. We've got lanes and lanes, that's from the first network and from the second network. I'm going to choose for the first I'm going to use the actual flow, and I'm going to do differences. So that changes the layout slightly here, and I'm going to use this one for the second one. Just double clicking on that, added it up here. So now I can see I got my statistics for the first attribute and for the second attribute, and the differences looks like this, and the actual width with the current 10 units per 1 meter on the ground. It will give us 27 meters. I'm quite happy with this for a first start. We can see the color has changed to become differences, so it's got opposing values and opposing colors. You can choose any color. If you want something that's not value laden, you can probably select this type of color. I'm just going to minimize the band type and data selection part here. I'm looking at this now. I'm quite happy. I can go into my definition query again. I can say relative values. It's got to be more than minimum 1% different. Otherwise, I don't want to see it. I could also say I want the difference to be minimum 10. Otherwise, I don't want to see it. So I'm now going to create my bands. I'm going to see this is the bands. I can see I didn't set the legend, so therefore I've got these terribly long legend things. So the biggest differences we have, they're all along here. If I change my layout to the aerial, it's actually a bit easier to see what is going on. I'm going back to what we had before, because I want to show you a couple of differences, or you might want to call them problems, but they're not really problems, they are just differences in the networks, and therefore the bands comes out in this way that we're seeing here. I'll go back to the create bands. I'm going to say my labels, I want them a little bit more rounded, so I'm going to say just 5. I can say I don't want to see anything that's less than 10 as a label, and that should probably be fine. I can limit my data set so that I don't show it on the turns. I'm conscious that I might be doing too many things now, so I'll just stop here and do the create bands once again. And it comes out like this. It's a bit easier to see what goes on here. So what we can see here is that we've got loads of the white ones, And according to this, that's a shared value. So that shows the total flow on this link. So if we zoom into the link above here from 200 to 310, we should be able to see here that Epsom E4 minus Epsom CA, that's a negative number, and it's 55. So 55 out of a total of 415 is what we see here. I can go to the select, and I can select this link, and I should be able to see in the link attributes here, I should be able to see the demand flow. So that's at 415. That's true because it's rounded to the nearest 5. So that is true, and you can see that there's a difference between these two values. But that's on the two different links in the two different directions. It's not between the two different years. So anyway, we can see there's the total flow is 417, and the minimum flow is no. Okay, so if we go to these other links here, you can see there's some differences in network here. So it comes out all orangey gray and all blue underneath it. So that's not surprising. What might be a little bit surprising is the way that the network goes here. We've got two node 320 here. So this link in one network, which is the Epsom 1 network, really. I can show you that by going in here, and if I hide all the network 2, then we'll see that network 1 has got this geometry, and that is also why SatView has chosen that geometry to be used for the differences. There's hardly any difference on the flow, and this has 20 cars difference. So I'll go back to the structure. Now we can do this differently with the bands by right clicking here and then saying set this as primary network. Then when I click this as primary network, what happens is this network gets number 1, and this network up here gets number 2. So now if I go back to my create bands and I just don't change anything and just do create bands again, and I'm a bit surprised to find what I'm finding here. I'll just I'm a bit surprised to find that I was expecting it to be the other way around, that it would actually respect my primary network, but it doesn't. It respects only the first, so it's using the geometry from the first network and not the second one. So what can we do to fix this? What we can do is we can move the nodes. So we can go here, click there, and move it to approximately there. And then the bands, they don't change when you change the geometry of the links. It's only the links and the user links that change. So I'm going to say, but if I switch on all the layers now, we'll see that the 320 node is actually shared between them now. Okay, and I can go and create bands and say create bands again, and it will now have moved and be part of the expected layout here. Okay, now moving further to the right on the screen here, we'll see we've got these two, and they're both positive changes. It looks like it's positive changes here, and what it is that one is positive to this extent, and the other one is positive to that extent. And if we look closely at the node IDs, I'll just make it a bit easier. You can see that there's a typo has sneaked into one of the DAT files, and the node number is 4,400 instead of 440. And if I move one of these nodes, you will see that it is moving just one node and not the other node. So now if I say create bands here, and do it like that, then you can see what was going on was that these were roughly overlapping, and therefore you did get a funny picture. Okay, I think this is a bit of a troubleshooting session really, rather than a differences session. But having given you this difference session, I think I will actually stop, and I'll find you a different session where we can go into details about how the difference bands can be, how they can be used effectively in networks that match nicely. Okay, thank you for listening, and goodbye.